So The Chosen just gave us two new scenes actually tonight. We're going to look at one of them right now, and this is a scene that we've actually talked about before, but we got actually a big portion of, well, actually not a big portion, a small portion of this really long chapter and scene. It's really, really looking like season 4 of The Chosen has more scripture than basically any other season has had so far. They're kind of running out of moments to add in kind of these behind the scenes things. Even though they're going to keep on doing that, obviously, they need to add in more and more and more scripture, and so we're kind of seeing that play out in real time. Season 4 is going to be packed with a ton of different scripture. This one specifically, we're going to be jumping into Matthew chapter 23, but let me show you exactly what this scene was without actually showing you the scene because they want it to be taken off the internet. So I'm going to show you some screenshots of what they showed and kind of walk you through what happened in this scene. Okay, here we go. So first off, we see Jesus and the crew. Looks like they're in Capernaum, outside of the synagogue. And the clarification that Dallas gave when he first started talking about this scene was that Jesus was doing this on purpose. So there is a new edict that we heard about in season 3 where basically the Pharisees are trying to catch Jesus breaking the law. They're trying to catch him in these blasphemous statements that they think he's making and kind of catching him in a state where they could pin something on him, right? We see this in the Bible all the time where the Pharisees are trying to ask him questions. They're trying to get him into a spot where they can get him in trouble because they don't like what he's saying, okay? So that is exactly what's happening here. Jesus is out in front of the synagogue and he is actually preaching to these masses. He's doing these different things. This may actually be the same moment where we see Jesus healing that blind man with the dirt on his eyes. It's possible that that's the same scene here, but it could be different as well. I'm not 100% sure on that. But we do see Jesus here with all of his apostles in front of a large crowd looking at two Pharisees. And so the two Pharisees that we see are Rabbi Josiah and Rabbi Akiva. And I think these are Pharisees, but I've actually heard that Rabbi Akiva could be a Sadducee as well. In The Chosen, they haven't done an amazing job so far of distinguishing the two of them, but either way, they're leaders of the law, right, within Jewish society. So we see Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Josiah as they're out in front of this synagogue with Pharisees behind them as well. Then we obviously see this interaction mostly between Rabbi Akiva and Jesus here, and Jesus is pretty livid, and he's going through, like I said before, Matthew 23. So the 7 woes to the scribes and Pharisees, and so Jesus goes through a lot of this dialogue here that he sees, that we see in Matthew 23. And if you read some of this, it's pretty vitriolic. Like, it's really, really, really intense stuff because Jesus is really upset at how they're acting like they're better than everybody else, how they're acting like what they do is the proper thing when it's just not. It's not focused on what God would want them to be focused on. It's focused on something else entirely. And so if I read a little bit of this for you, for example, we saw this in the behind the scenes a while ago. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you tithe mint and dill and cumin, and yet have neglected the weightier matters of the law, justice and mercy and faithfulness. These you ought to have done without neglecting the others. You blind guides, straining out a gnat and swallowing a camel. So this is part of the scene that we're actually seeing here. And so as we look at this, you can see that Rabbi Akiva and Josiah are kind of caught off guard, but we also get a lot of other reactions to what's happening here, kind of building up the scenario. One that we get that I love a lot is Liz Tabish as Mary Magdalene. She is really proud of this moment. She's like, go get them, finally telling them to be put in their place, showing them what they're doing wrong. She's kind of excited that this is happening. Another one that we see is Gaius. He's kind of in the back of the crowd, as we see him and some other Roman soldiers off in the background. My guess is that this is previous to Gaius's servant being healed, and so that's why we're going to see kind of a build-up into this. Gaius is seeing Jesus doing more and more and more and more things, and so as he comes to more and more faith in Jesus, then we're going to get to the point where Gaius has this really strong faith, and his son is able to be healed during all that time. We also see the crowd's reaction. I believe, if I'm correct, let me know in the comments, but I believe this is the guy from season 3 who yelled at Veronica for bleeding and basically tried to tell on her in the middle of the crowd. Let me know if I'm right about that. I'm pretty sure this is the guy. And then we also see this, which is someone who we've talked about before in the behind the scenes, but if you haven't caught those episodes where we've talked about that, Rivka is returning from season 1. Season 1, she was kind of the matron of the Red Quarter. It seems here that Tamar and her are kind of bonding. I'm not sure. Like, they haven't really met before, as far as I know, because we saw Rivka in episode 1 and episode 8, and we saw Tamar only in episode 6. So I don't know if they would know each other. Maybe there's some sort of backstory that we're missing. I'm not sure. But we also see Rama there as well. Rivka kind of speaks up for a second and says something during this conversation as well. Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying this video, I'd love for you to subscribe. Our goal right now is to pass Rabbi Jason Sobel in subscribers, so we need your help to do that. Thank you so much. And then we go back to Rabbi Akiva, who's like going crazy. He's just going off for sure. And then we see Jesus as he builds up to a climax here and starts just taking off. So let's read some more of this section here, because it's pretty crazy. He says, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites, for you are whitewashed tombs, which outwardly appear beautiful, but within are full of dead people's bones and all uncleanliness. So you also outwardly appear righteous to others, but within you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites, for you build the tombs of the prophets and decorate the monuments of the righteous, saying, if we had lived in the days of our fathers, we would not have taken part with them in shedding the blood of the prophets. Thus you witness against yourselves that you are sons of those who murdered the prophets. Fill up then the measure of the fathers, measure of your fathers, you serpents, you brood of vipers." Now, this is a really interesting comment, kind of tying back to who? John the Baptist, right? And seeing that as well. How are you to escape being sentenced to hell? Therefore, I send you prophets and wise men and scribes, some of whom will kill and you will kill and crucify, and some you will flog in your synagogues and persecute from town to town, so that on you may come all the righteous blood shed on earth, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah the son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the sanctuary and the altar. Truly, I say to you, all these things will come upon this generation. So this is like again, we're tying into this as well, the lamenting over Jerusalem, lamenting over kind of what's happening here. It's really, really interesting. This whole section is so intense. And Dallas said that this scene is going to be, it's going to be 20 minutes long. Like, that's a long scene. So 20 minutes long. It's going to be really intense. I can't wait for this one. He said this one specifically, just so you guys know, is going to be episode 3 of season 4. So this is going to be like the special episode that we've gotten every time, but it looks like this is a little bit different than what we've seen previously. So I am wondering what the theme of that third episode is going to be, since they're always kind of unique in a certain way. So yeah, going to be really, really cool. I'm definitely excited for this episode, for that scene in particular. So much scripture to dive into, so much stuff to talk about. It's going to be awesome for sure. If you like this small portion of our live stream, you can check out the whole entire live stream over on our Patreon at patreon.com/thesnipelife. This is by far the best way to help support us and to keep us doing amazing things in the future of these videos. There's a lot of stuff we have planned, so I want you to be a part of it. All right, we'll see you on the next one. Peace.